All right. Well, welcome everybody to Cosmic Compass Conversation. I'm really excited today. We have a special guest, Rochelle Stanley, and I'll introduce her in a few minutes. But right now, what I want to do is breathe and connect, and then I will pull some cards for the week. Before we go into that portion, one thing that I did want to remind everybody about is we have moved through the equinox. So technically, we've moved into the new season. For some people watching later, the season is spring. For some people, it's fall. For most of us here, I believe it is fall. And having an opportunity to move through the transitions of the season, just on all levels, being mindful of your well-being as you move through a transition time. So whether that's physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, um, these are big transitions, and it's not just an astrological thing. It is actually a physical and practical thing as well. So I'm excited to be in the transition phase. I also know that astrologically there is an intensity, and David was asking me last night, he's like, isn't there always an intensity? I'm like, well, yes, but the flavors of the intensity shift and change. So I suppose you could probably say there's always some intensity somewhere. But there is very definitely in between eclipses anytime. And we have eclipses all the time. I mean, we have them every year. So they're not some like ooh, rare event, but I think when we're in between them, which is what we are right now, I think that the energy, not only does it support change, but I think it requires us to stabilize and ground a little bit more, because it's easy to get, a little, oh, there's a lot going on. And for some people, there is a lot going on. So I really want to be aware and mindful of that as well. So sending some extra special love out to members of our community who can't be here today because of some of those things that are going on. So just lots of love being sent out there. Okay, let's do some breathing. If you feel like closing your eyes, you can. If you don't feel like closing your eyes or you can't close your eyes, just bringing your awareness into your body and feeling that energy, that support that you have for yourself by being here or listening to this later, and bringing yourself into your body and just noticing. That's all you have to do. Right now, notice where your feet are. Notice where your shoulders are. And when you're ready, we're going to take a deep breath, expanding the belly and exhaling. And feeling that energy at your feet, feeling the earth, giving support and breathing in that support at the soles of the feet and allowing that energy to gently rise up through the body, expanding the belly. And exhaling when you're ready. Breathing in, expanding the belly. And exhaling when you're ready. One more time, feeling that support, feeling that deep ancestral support, honoring the land where you are right now, honoring all those who have come before, breathing in, expanding the belly, and exhaling. Beautiful. I always could stay there for a really long time. Once we're into that rhythm of breathing, I'm like, oh, I could just be here for a while, but we aren't going to do that today. Maybe another time we'll do breathing for a while. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to pull 3 cards from the Light Seers Tarot. And let's just see, last week's cards were really awesome. Let's just see what's happening this week. All right, so energy has moved into Libra. Venus has moved into Scorpio. There is a lot of different energies this week than last. So let's just see. Let's just see what's up. Okay. All right. First card. Okay. I'll just put it up here. And there we go. All you have to do is just look and see what you see. Notice what you notice. Feel what you feel. This is, I haven't actually pulled this card too many times, but what I love, it's a very simple card, but there's actually a lot of detail, and I always notice something different every time I do pull it. So just again, the cards really are here to speak to your soul. So what is this saying to your soul today? So for those of you that know the tarot, the card, the nine, much of the time is known as the Hermit, but it's also known as the Crone. So depending on your perspective, you can look at the nine in different ways. Next year is a 9 year. So we'll be doing the workshop again on how to work with the nine energies along with the astrology, which is very, very it's changing a lot next year. So it's interesting this card comes up because it is a good reminder to me for us to remember the balance, right? You know, we're in our time of balance and equilibrium and recalibrating. And the nine will bring us into a time of wisdom. Hopefully, that's the plan. We'll see. But that's the plan. Well, we do our best. Okay, next card. And again, what do you see? What do you feel? Some of you may even know what kind of horse that is. I don't, but it's always fun to see horses in these cards. She actually has a number of cards with horses, which is very sweet. The Knight of Pentacles. And again, it's really important for you to just kind of, what do you notice? What do you see? What do you feel? Pentacles are very much of the earth realm, the material realm, the earth realm. Again, you know why I use these cards. They're just so beautiful. I love them. All right, our third and final card for today is another nine. Not my happy card, but there's a reason why everything comes up. And so important for us to find what the message is here for each of us. And you know I love Chris Ann's affirmations, even for this card, which traditionally is not the easiest, but it's actually, I will just say this much about this card. This card is actually very powerful because this particular image might make you wonder about that, but in its fullness, this card is actually letting us know that we are moving into our power. So just a little side note there. I usually don't say too much, but I will say I joke a lot that this is my least favorite card. Traditionally, the traditional look of this card is my very least favorite art. This is actually pretty interesting art, not bad. So again, another nine. And again, you know, what are we doing with our wisdom is one of the questions I would be asking. I am going to cheat today because I feel like when you pull the Nine of Swords, you should at least give the Chris Ann affirmation to go with it. Just because, I mean, it's a big card, and I think that I'll just cheat today. You know, you can't mix it up. What can you do? All right, so this actually works well, I think, overall. The affirmation that she has is, I see my fears as the illusions that they are. And actually, I like that because the other two cards really, so if we look at all three cards here, the other two cards really bring us some really good support about tuning in and blessings coming our way. And then I've heard from, I mean, I guess I can really speak just for myself. A lot of times when I have a lot of blessings coming into my life, that fear will show up. Like, oh, is this going to last? Am I deserving? Am I worthy? All the things that the old stuff will still find its way to the surface. So I think seeing the fears as illusion and understanding that is a really vital message for this time so that we're able to receive. Because remember, the 8-year is all about receiving. So, how is it that I am receiving with ease and grace and joy and pleasure? How is it that I see my fears as the illusions that they are? And how is it that I am living fully from this place? Okay, so this is actually the perfect segue. So now I'm going to bring in Rochelle. And Rochelle, I'm going to spotlight you. So let me add a spotlight. Awesome. And thank you, Rochelle, for being here. So many of you know Rochelle, but in case you don't, I have known Rochelle since 2012. And we have been through many journeys together. So we've been through a whole Jupiter cycle together now, Rochelle. We've been through 12 years together on this planet, um, journeying in many ways through our own healing, but also choosing to support others in their own healing journey. So Rochelle Stanley is an intuitive healer, teacher, phenomenal teacher, a retreat facilitator. She has online courses, she has in-person offerings, and Rochelle's way of working with healing energy is extraordinarily powerful and respectful of both you and the energy. So when she teaches, there is always that element available. Just a respect, like this is the way that the energy is moving right now. How can we work with it? What do we need to work? How do we need to work differently? What do we need to clear? So I'm just going to say a couple more words about you, Rochelle, since it's like talking in front of you, right? And then I'll let you come in and talk about yourself. But one of the things I love about you, Rochelle, is that the nurturing energy you carry is profound. And is it okay if I talk a little bit about your astrology? Okay.
Yeah.
So Rochelle has this beautiful, Cancerian moon. And that nurturing energy, like anytime you're with Rochelle, you just feel that nurturing, powerful energy. And Rochelle also, being a Gemini, is very well studied, always learning, always, bringing the teaching in. And the Taurus energies that she carries in her chart are really grounding. So there's a nice combination of energies there, I think, for me anyway. I always feel very comfortable. And one thing, I'll just say this. I don't know how to say this exactly, but some people will say, don't sugarcoat it. They'll say that to me because they know that I tend to skew toward that because I have a Sagittarius moon, right? So I tend to skew toward that. You don't need to worry with Rochelle. She will not sugarcoat it. Um, she won't. It's all good. She'll give it to you. But that's the thing I love about, and I've always told you this, Rochelle. I love your Cancer moon because there's a high level of emotional intelligence in there in terms of how to deliver information. And as someone with a Cancer North node, that's always been my stretch. Like, how do I deliver information in a way that is really solid, truthful, honest? And the Gemini energy that you carry is all about truth. Geminis are constantly seeking the truth. And so they can also spot untruths, if you will. So there's that. But I'm always like, how can I be more forthright in a way that is kind? Or, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? Like, I always come back to that. And sometimes it's not going to sound kind, but it is necessary. So you have like these But I think you do a great job of making it sound okay. Like I think that's a superpower, actually, one of your superpowers. So
Thank you.
anyway, Rochelle, let me bring you in. I could talk all day long all about you, but let's bring you in. What do you want to say about yourself now that I've shared all that?
I don't feel like there's anything left to say after that.
What is your favorite part about doing the work that you offer? What is your favorite part about,
Honest,
yeah.
yeah, it's helping people. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the things that I really like to help people be aware of is how intuitive they already are,
Yes.
and to help them unlock that potential. I mean, the
Yes.
body and the spirit hold
Yes.
the answers, and sometimes it's hard to access those answers on your own. And so it's fun to bring the truth
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
I find that telling people the truth moves them through their process so much
Mhm.
faster. It's like they've been dancing around it. And I do that when I'm working on myself sometimes. It's like
Mhm.
I'm dancing around the center,
Mhm.
the meatiest, juiciest part that's going to actually help me shift. So,
Well, I mean, you
yeah,
bring up a good point too. You and I have talked a lot about Chiron. And when we enter our Chiron return, we're both moving through some of the biggest challenges and wounds that we've had and we've continued to carry that we keep healing, but there's spiral that takes us deeper. But underneath that is our gifts. So the fact that this process of circling around the truth is because you've had to go through your own process of determining where is the truth in this, right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can tell you that I had layers and layers of blindfolds on. It was really, I think we all do that. I think that when we're young, we're not realizing the trauma that's coming into our life because
Mhm.
trauma is so normal, right? It's our environment,
Mhm.
we feel like our environment's so normal.
Right.
And then we build up the first phase of our life around that normalcy.
Right.
And we bring in more teachers and more lessons. And then I think when we hit our 30s, we start to peel away
Mhm.
the veil layer after layer, and we start to see what we've been learning, and what we need to call in to
Yes.
strengthen who
Yeah.
we are. And
Yeah.
yeah, so the Chiron, it's amazing. It turns your world, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but it turns your world upside down just a little bit so that you can
It can.
then become like the claimer of your wisdom, and then help other people,
Yeah.
you know, lift the veil so they can see what they're learning and claim their wisdom.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And claiming wisdom, and that's also an interesting phrase because next year that's a lot of what the numerology wants for us to do. And also with the shifting of the planets, there's some big shifts into other signs. Um, just kind of just generally speaking, the nodal shift from Aries to Pisces. So the moon's nodes go backwards. And so at least what we perceive as backwards. And that shifting from that Aries energy, which is giving us a lot of like energy to get to the root of things a lot of times, or to take a new path or shift our perspective. The shifting into Pisces, I think this is the time a lot of us have been waiting for. This happens about every 19 years. And I'll just say this, and then I'll ask you what you were doing 19 years ago. Um, so just cue that thought there for a moment. What were you all doing 19 years ago? When we shift into Pisces, there's this definite reminder that the spiritual realm is where the healing is. And absolutely, activity and action and movement is key, right? I mean, that's particularly key for integration, and this emphasis in Pisces is going to deepen us as a collective. And any one of us who
Mm.
is, consciously doing some work to deepen our connection to our intuition, our dreams, our visions, our guides, to compassion, to love, we're going to probably love this nodal shift, I think. I think it's going to
Oh
be a
man.
good one. And it's really helpful to look back. So everybody take a moment. And before I put Rochelle in the, spotlight here, 19 years ago. So roughly if you go back 20 years, that's 2004. And so you add a year, that's 2005. So if anyone can even think of what they were doing. Okay, I can remember 2005. Ooh, yeah. Okay. That was a that was an interesting year, but important for the journey. And again, I remember the deepening of that journey. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, there was a lot going on in 2005. All right, Rochelle, you're on.
First of all, I'm excited and inspired about the energy coming in
Mhm.
for this next year. I think it's going to ground us, even though I think when we're bringing in more of our spirit self, it's so much air. I
Mhm.
feel this grounding maybe of our spirit here on earth. It feels really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, I was a new mom of my first child who's about to
Mm.
be 20 in a couple months. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's, that's what I was doing, is just loving it up, being a mom of a tiny little baby.
Yeah, your first baby, right. That's a
Mhm,
big deal. So,
mhm,
as you look at the shift into this, so next year as we shift back into that, um, what can you be nurturing next year? What is, you're not quite empty nested at this point, but it's coming.
mhm.
It's on its way in a few
Yeah,
years. So, not to push it or anything, but that feeling of what wants to be born now, what wants to come forward. And I love what you said about, the groundedness. When we move energy, there's a lot of energy movement, like Neptune is moving into Aries. Saturn will move from Pisces into Aries eventually. Jupiter will be moving from Gemini into Cancer. But there is some water energy coming in. And despite what we might think, water can be grounding, even though it's not earth energy. And I loved what you said because it, it's tangible. Air is tangible too if we really pay attention, right? But water is that much more tangible. You can put your hand
mhm.
in it, you can feel it, you can move it around. So, yeah, being in our bodies is key. And that's okay. So Rochelle has a lot of Taurus in her chart, and she knows being in her body is really, really important. All right, let's talk about intuition and developing intuition. Um, let's talk about why this is so important. I mean, I know why I think it's important, but why do you think it's
Yeah. I think for 1,000 reasons, and I'll try to simplify, but the strongest one I want to come forward with today is that intuition helps you really know what's true.
ah,
Because we doubt ourselves, first of all. I think that's one of the complications that comes in when people are working on trusting their intuition, is they doubt it.
yeah,
And so when you can really understand how your intuition's working for you, because everyone's set up a little differently,
yeah,
right? Nobody is exactly the same. There's no photocopy of how you're intuiting information.
mhm,
But when you really learn your gifts, you
mhm,
start to really understand the truth. And when you understand the truth, there's less fear.
mhm. And that's
So,
good. See, that really works with this last card, dispelling the
mhm.
fear through
A lot
truth.
Yeah, a lot of times people are afraid that if they really tune into their intuition, they allow it, they're afraid of that, of what they might see or what they might,
Mhm,
hear,
mhm,
know, feel, whatever. But my truth has been, the more intuitive I become, the
mhm,
safer I feel, because I'm getting those clear answers from
mhm,
source energy
mhm,
instead of the scattered group
mhm,
consciousness energy.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. And thank you for bringing that up because I think there are people who are operating with their intuition really seamlessly throughout the day. They use it for their work, they use it with their family. And listening to intuition, there are different levels of it. And so there's the level at which we're flowing in our lives, and then there are deeper levels of intuition for guidance. And then there's from there, because you and I've talked about this, like, you know a lot of people will say, well, I want to have intuition where I can talk to animals, or I can talk to the angels or my guides. um I feel like that's also very important. And I don't want to lose track of that, but I also want to say one more thing and then we'll come back to that. One thing I've noticed over the years, and I love what you said about you feel more safe And I think that's the key. And I just want to say this to people when you work with Rochelle or when you have a class with Rochelle, I think that is what I feel. There's a level of safety that wants to come forward. It's okay to hear what you're going to hear because even if it's not what you expect, you can work with it. You're not at a loss there. I think that's really, really important. One thing I've been contemplating a lot recently is there have been a couple of times where I can absolutely 100% identify when I did not listen to my intuition. Now, I knew it at the time. I could feel it. Where did I feel it? In my body. My stomach is usually fine, but there are times when like that, they say that sinking feeling you have in your stomach. I have felt that in some particular moments and overrode the key, the clue, the massive amount of support that was coming in that I didn't pay attention to. Sometimes when we do that, and I've done it, I can identify 2 times as clear as day. Um, and what happens is I tend not to like the word mistake, but things happen that don't feel good. Let's put it that way. There's a possibility that we stop trusting ourselves to listen to our intuition. And there's a fear that we might miss something and make another mistake. How would you approach that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think mistakes are incredible.
Okay,
I
tell
think
us
that
more.
because we learn so much from the
Mhm,
mistake, and you then know what that mistake felt like in your body. And so when you're receiving intuitive information and you're trying to decipher what it means, you can lean into, does that energy feel pure and clean and
mhm.
good, or does it feel like that mistake energy that I felt before?
Yeah.
So it's a compass, right? If you've made that mistake. And I think we've all experienced going against our intuition. Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
can't say that anyone's perfect, right? But I think we
Oh,
become more seamless
yeah.
the longer we go with it and the more that we trust it.
And I think it's like a muscle. I really do. And it's like, how can we build our capacity for listening to that inner feeling, inner voice, inner insight, which leads me to this other question about there are different forms of intuition. And this is something that you have spent a lot of time deepening into. So, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
I just am in sometimes awe. I met someone the other day at a bookstore, and her intuition is colors. Colors give her information, and
Yeah.
it's full on messages about somebody. And
Wow.
that's something new that I learned, right? I didn't realize that. And it makes me go further
Mhm.
in knowing that there are infinite possibilities of how people
Yeah.
are receiving intuitive information. And that's, I think people get stuck because they feel like, oh, but I don't see
Yeah.
clairvoyantly like she does, or I'm not as strong. But what they don't realize is they haven't even honed into their particular gift and how they're receiving information, which means they're missing it
Yeah.
because they're trying to do it like this
Yeah.
instead of how they're designed to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's kind of what, yeah, this is going to lead us into a couple of other branches of this conversation. But for me, when I think back to the early days, right? My intuition, and again, what is the difference between intuition and being psychic? This is where we've got another level of how do we define things. I was able to see people on the other side or people who had passed over, angels, different beings, which I want to get into with you also. But then how do you pay attention to the signs that are coming through your version or your brand or your style of intuition? And how I trained myself and really increased that muscle and that capacity was through nature and the signs in nature, whether it's a tree or a bird or another plant or another animal or the elements. And that's how I would ask for a sign in the morning, or I would pull a card and not look to see what the card meant, but like live with that energy during the day and see what I would come up with, and then later find out what the general meaning was and then write about it. But it was a very, very specific, disciplined process of that type of intuition. By then, I had already trained with psychics who were looking for kidnap victims and working for police departments. And so there's that level of seeing, I guess, is maybe a nice way to see it, or hearing or feeling. But there's
Mhm.
also this other piece of listening to what's right in front of us. So I'm going to put it over into your court because you have a lot of experience with this too. And I want people to hear your stories.
I think sometimes I struggle because all those forms of being intuitive or psychic are natural in me. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, right. I remember, looking for a missing person or all the signs
Mhm.
um, and they all help elevate where you're at for sure. But it's layered. It's as simple as you think of someone
Mhm.
and then the phone rings and it's them. You're picking up on their psychic call out through the web or the grid, our energy grid that we're all connected to. And
Mhm.
that's being intuitive or psychic. And I think it's acknowledging the small things,
Mhm.
knowing what's coming in the mail today, like, oh, I feel like I'm going to get a check in the mail today, or,
I
simple
always
things.
think that. No, I'm just kidding.
But I have this really strong belief that you can develop it because it's a skill. So
Yes.
if you want to use it, just simple things like what's the best way to go to avoid traffic today, or
Mhm.
who's the best doctor for me, or is this medicine right for me, or remote viewing, or bilocating, or changing the frequency of water. I really think whatever it is, communicating with animals, angels, guides, whatever it is that you want, that's a calling in your soul. And if your soul's craving that, that's your first hint that that's a capability that you can
Yeah,
awaken in yourself. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, okay, so you've spent a lot of time creating opportunities for people to work with you, um, developing their intuitive gifts. So, do you want to share anything that's coming, or like, yeah, just anything you want, anything?
So yeah, I've been in creation mode. It's
Yeah.
been fun. And
Yeah.
Denise, you know how awesome she is. She's been helping me to guiding me. I'm like, what do you think of this? And what do you feel about that? And what's my chart say about this and that and the other thing?
Yeah.
So I am ready to host in-person events again. It's been a really long time. This was on the regular for me when I lived in Ben Lomond up until 2018. I was teaching constantly, helping people in all kinds of areas of intuition and talking with angels and guides and stuff like that. And then moving and to Kauai, that became a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready. I feel like I've made it through my Chiron return. I'm in the next phase of life and more wisdom to share. So I am going to be offering some in-person courses for people bi-monthly starting in December. So I'm excited.
So, tell us where you are so people know where some of those courses are
Oh,
going to
yeah, you
be.
guys don't know where I live.
Yeah, she
Sorry.
doesn't live in Kauai anymore. Yeah.
I am in Monterey, California, and it's really beautiful here. It's a destination place. I'm
Mhm.
kind of, famous for moving to where it's a destination. That's what my soul wants. It's beautiful here. It's in this magical room. Denise has been encouraging me, that room, it's meant for teaching
Oh,
and stuff.
God,
Yeah.
yes. I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the newest thing. I have a retreat coming up, and this will be my first retreat, and then it's going to be in Tuscany
That's
in a
so
year.
exciting. Let's hear
I
all about
know.
that. That's like a whole
Uh,
new thing.
I know. I've been dreaming this into reality for a while, actually. I think ever since I saw that movie Under the Tuscan Sun,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of you have seen
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Not to be a cliche, but I was like, ooh.
Mhm.
And then in Kauai, I was dreaming a little bit more about
Mhm.
having a retreat that's really nurturing and
Yeah.
loving and supportive for people to move through their work and open their intuition. And then when I moved back to California, I got invited to a women's circle. It's all synchronicity.
Yeah.
And one of the women there, she hosts retreats in Tuscany, and she has, villas and hamlets. She doesn't own them, but
Yeah.
it's family stuff, blah, blah, blah. And she's been doing it for 20 years. And so, yeah, I'm getting ready to launch this whole thing.
Well, tell us about it. We
Okay.
might as well, because a lot of people on this call actually live closer to Tuscany than to Monterey,
Oh,
California.
well, hello to all of those folks over there in Europe. It's been a while since I've been there. So, first of all, selfishly, I'm looking forward to going back.
Yeah. Of course.
It's going to be 6 days and 5 nights at a villa in Tuscany. The first day we'll all land in Florence and, explore Florence a little bit. It's always a good idea to get there probably a few days early. You just got
I do.
back.
I
So
just did that. It really makes a lot of, it actually makes a lot of sense to get there a little bit early. Yeah.
yeah. The villa is beautiful. People have choices of doing a private room with a private bathroom, or a private room with a shared bathroom, or shared experience. And
Mhm.
all meals are included. And it's called Unleash Your Intuition, or Unleash Intuitive Living.
Okay.
And so we'll have some breakthrough sessions throughout the day to help people kind of access their intuition, and then also identify beliefs that have been limiting them in their life and
Mhm.
resolve those, and give you some time tested methods to help you really tune into that inner wisdom, and start to rely on that in your life. So we're going to make pasta, which I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. Um, Wine tasting, olive tasting, a painting class,
Oh
and
my God.
lounging by the pool, and hiking in the morning, and yeah, all kinds of good stuff. So
Well, it sounds like the perfect blend, because honestly, I believe that intuition actually flows better when you're in a more relaxed state.
yeah, and there's a lot of historical healing energy there in
Mhm.
Tuscany. So we'll definitely be tuning into that and
Okay. When is
utilizing.
that happening? What month is that happening?
It'll be in September
Of
I,
next year.
of next year. Yeah, I
Okay.
believe I believe our first day is the 21st, but I sent you the link for that
Oh,
today.
right. Let me grab it. I'll put it
Yeah.
in. Thank you for reminding me. I just get
Hmm.
so drawn in that I'm like, oh yeah, let's just keep talking. But yes, I actually do have the link, and I can put it right here in the chat, and people can just check it out right now. And if you're listening to this on YouTube later, I've got it in the comments on YouTube. So there's that. So we can go there and check it out. That's exciting. Rochelle, I'm really excited for you. That's doing what I think our souls really want, which is to open up to a new experience, but also be in the flow of creativity, of nature, of, like you said, an energy region that is really supportive, and open up to the intuition that's flowing. That's really powerful. I'm really,
Yeah.
really happy. Did you ever in your wildest dreams think you would be hosting a retreat in Tuscany?
It's not, no, actually, I thought Bali,
Mhm.
Hawaii,
Mhm.
those are the places I was thinking, but
Yeah.
this is the one that, and I asked for signs because it came around like 3 times. And so I asked for a bluebird, which, believe it or not, where I live in Monterey, it's not the bird that I see all the time. And I kept seeing bluebirds. And so I knew I was meant to say yes and move forward with it. And I think that I can be one of those people that, even though I know I don't have to work hard, right? I think that sometimes I still hold on to that. No, it has to be harder.
Oh, how many people? I can't see anybody right now because everyone's behind the veil, but raise your hands if you feel like you need to work harder. Yeah,
I know.
somehow we could have a whole conversation about that. But yeah, I love what you said about you were listening, watching for the signs, and it was just an easeful, like, oh, here, this is what we're doing next.
Yeah, it's good. And then noticing our resistant points too, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
like you had said earlier, and I don't have your exact words, but we get when the we're fearing the things that are coming next, the blessings that are coming next. Sometimes when those blessings come, it does trigger us because we're like the
Right.
what ifs, what ifs, what ifs, right? And so it helps you identify where you're stuck in your belief systems when the
Right.
blessings come as well. The fear we just hide from everything, but when the blessings come, we get tested. It's so curious, isn't it?
Mhm.
Instead of just fully just soaring into those blessings, we can resist. We're nuts.
Well, we are definitely living a human experience, right? I mean, I think many of us, um, I'm writing as well I'm talking. Many of us know, I think deep inside that we have access to limitlessness, and the earth plane or this earth existence um mystifies us at times, like, what, why is this not happening? What is this about? And so that, that having it, the earth is also incredible and beautiful, and there's so much amazingness here. And how do we, connect what we know we're capable of on some level, because we've lived it before, with this plane, right? With this energy, which I
Mhm.
think is one of the things that you talk about a lot in your classes.
You know what comes up for me as you're sharing is how when we go deep into our
Mhm.
inner work and we look at all the human stuff and all the blocks and obstacles we put in our path, if we go really big picture with this, we're intentionally making it harder because we enjoy it and we're trying to stretch out the experience.
Totally true. Hello. Say that again. No, I mean, I think there's some truth to that.
I mean, that's where I go so often. Like,
Yeah.
this inner being is capable of anything, you guys. Your inner being is absolutely capable of anything. And we
Yeah.
struggle on purpose. And I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's true from my experience with my own inner work. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of people. And if you keep following the threads, the further you get, the more that you see that
Mhm.
that's the truth. And
Mhm.
so at any moment, we can flip the switch and be like, I'm going to actually let this be easy. It's okay. And when we decide to go there, even if it's not lasting, because it's sometimes
Mhm.
hard to hold that, it creates this space to help people even more because
Mhm.
we've stepped out of the challenges,
Mhm.
which means that we can assist other people at a
Yeah.
higher level.
Yeah, and I recognize the sticky ground there, because I know that some people, there is, there's a lack of privilege for a lot of people. And so their experiences, they would not ever choose those experiences. However, I think what you're saying is, even in that situation, there can be ways to free up some of the energy for shifting in different directions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean to be
Mhm.
so general with the statement, but
Yeah.
I think that even people that are in really difficult
Mhm.
situations and circumstances, it's still charted.
Mhm.
Like, I bet you if you read their chart, you would
Mhm.
see that a
Mhm.
lot of what they've been through and will go through is charted,
Yeah.
which means their soul is gobbling up the lessons and the wisdom.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's when we deepen into spiritual learning,
Mhm.
right? When we talk about, and your retreat is entitled living into your intuition.
Unleash intuitive living.
Unleash intuitive living. Okay, which I like, by the way. But there's this remembrance of who we are as powerful beings, and power. And this is, all these words are kind of trigger words, because power doesn't mean power over. Power means internal resourced connectedness to something greater than ourselves. At least that's my interpretation of it. And finding that and connecting with that, no matter what our external circumstances, can yield good results for us, especially on the spiritual journey. Which is to say, and I mean, you and I have both been through a lot of trauma, especially in our young lives. No one wants that for anyone. I mean, even just kind of sensing that and feeling that, just, I can feel it under my skin, that feeling of, no, no, we're not saying to anyone, you chose this trauma, but what can we help you with now? Where can we take you from this place? That's
Right.
the beauty
So
of this.
right. So that's the treasure in all of it, right? Is you went through everything you went through. Everyone out there, they've gone through you can't
Yeah.
deny people that wasn't painful,
Right,
that didn't cause suffering,
right,
that didn't cause trauma.
right.
You can't deny that because all of it's true. And
Yeah,
those experiences are true. And you never want to take that from anyone.
yeah.
But I'm always looking for what came from that, right? What was the soul experience of that so that we can stop kind of hanging out here still in the trauma and the
Mhm,
story of those
mhm.
situations,
Yeah,
and just claim it and move forward so that we stop calling in
mhm.
similar cycles into our
Yeah,
life experience. And um you know, you talked about me being a truth teller, right? And one of the things that I think happens with when people work with me is I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, right?
mhm.
You may not think that you want to hear it, but once you
Right.
hear it, you're glad that you did. And
Mhm,
I remember I wanted to share this briefly. I was sexually abused for many years of my childhood, and my mom stayed with that particular
mhm,
husband for 30 years, well after I was an adult. And um, that was a lot of my healing is just
mhm,
growing up with really rough stepdads.
mhm. Yeah.
And I remember running through the forest, which is one of my favorite places to connect to source and to do my inner work and claiming lessons learned about
Mhm.
different things that had happened in my life. And I was in my ego in the moment, which happens. And I was like, you know, when I leave this planet, I'm going to get the equivalent of an Oscar for everything that I've been through. And this voice kind of laughed, not mocking me, but oh, how cute that that's what she thinks happens when. And took a moment. I go, okay, obviously, I don't know everything. There's something to learn here. So, what is it about this sexual trauma that, you know, I was meant to learn? And
Yeah.
this is the message I received for myself, and it may not be true for everybody else. And I was open to hearing it. It kept my energy in a neutral space. And I heard that I had created it all so
Mhm.
that I could gain the amount of compassion that I have so that I could help other people.
Yeah.
And for me, it made sense, right? In that moment, it made sense. Like everything that I've been through helps me hold unconditional love for anyone that I work with.
That's true,
So,
actually. And I think that
mhm.
that is very true of your energy. And thank you so much for sharing that because I too experienced a lot of abuse and neglect growing up and into my teenage years as well, similar to you. Different, but similar. And I think, it took a while. It took a while. But at one point, I remember the shift, and I don't remember if it was in my 30s. It may have been in my 30s that I made this shift. It could have been even early 40s. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, so it's not remembering now. But I remember thinking very similarly, like, well, I don't like the idea that my soul chose these things. And what I can say is that I sure learned a lot about compassion. And it's interesting because there is a level at which if you read my astrology chart, right? And we look at some of that, um, that's part of what I came here to learn was compassion. And
Right,
it's unfortunate that sometimes the greatest learning comes through the greatest wounding, but that is often what I think the earth offers. And so, it's not like I would never treat trauma lightly at all. And I always recommend to people good work to work with your trauma. Don't necessarily sidestep it. I don't think that's beneficial, but also don't go so deep into it at one time that you can't get out of it. So there's ways to
yeah,
work with it. And I think that finding our way to compassion or finding our way to whatever it is that we came here to learn, because it's going to be different for everybody, um, is part of this very serious, and real mission of the soul. And, a lot of times we want it to be light and, light and higher, we'll hear these phrases like higher vibrations or whatever. That Yes, of course. We want to bring more light and love into the world, and we want to develop the ability to be at a higher frequency so that we are in that flow. And sometimes it takes, like you said, like confronting some of the harder things, which doesn't always feel very good.
No, I just do really want to reiterate some things though. I would never want anyone to blame themselves or feel like
Oh,
anything
yeah,
is their
no, yeah,
fault.
right.
We are here absorbing soul lessons, and we live on a planet that is contrast. It just is contrast, right?
Yes,
You don't
yes,
know hot unless you know cold. You don't know sweet unless you know sour, right? They
yeah,
say you don't know joy unless you know sorrow. So never blame yourself. And I want anyone that we've all been through stuff. I know everyone here that you have a story to tell, and your story that you will tell will help other people.
yes,
Never deny what you've been through. That's not fair.
yes,
That's not fair. And when I say you chose it, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's nothing around that energy at all. Your
yeah,
soul and your spirit. And you're so powerful and you're so capable, and gobble up the wisdom that you learned
yes.
and then set the story free so that it helps other people. Yeah.
So good. Mm. That's just, I want to just like highlight that and amplify that because that is the truth of it. Like, let yourself be authentically who you are, work with it, work. And this is the thing, and this is why I love having you here is you're willing to go there and work with that and deepen and support people on the journey. I love doing that too. We do it in different ways, but there is just this again, this nurturing energy that you bring. Like it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be great, in fact. In
Yeah.
fact, it's gonna be better than you can imagine. And that is the key. That is the key because there is this greater love and light and healing energy that we get to tap into, that we have this opportunity to deepen into. How lucky are we, right? I
Yeah,
do
we're really, really, really blessed, and we're
Yeah.
all so capable and so worthy of so
Yeah.
much.
And
Yeah.
I'm also thinking too, like when a lot of people have a lot of the challenges and they know that they're like, yep, I've had this challenge. It does actually strengthen our ability to connect with our intuition because, as you say, we're living in truth.
Right.
We're not trying to hide
True.
it.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's
Yeah.
true. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, thank you for letting me share that. I didn't mean to get too deep for anybody here.
No, we love deep, but we love deep because what it shows is that this is accessible for everyone. Like, people will ask me, and again, kind of going back to what you said, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, but there's a knowing, there's a being, there's a way to being in the energy of truth and being in the energy of healing and being in your intuition and letting it flow. So this is what you're all about. So we've only talked about the one thing, and we did have a question about the retreat. So I want to actually get that question answered. Is this retreat in Tuscany for men and women or just for women?
Well, I think right now it's open to men and women, although I think it will be mostly women.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right. So if somebody has a question, I'm going to put your website right in here, except I got to be able to copy it. And I want everyone to reach out to Rochelle anytime. Yeah. So,
So
so
thank you for that message and chat. Is it okay with that person for me to respond to that message?
yeah, I think as long as you don't say their name, I
I
think,
didn't even see their name.
okay. All right. Good.
Shame and guilt are really strong emotions that a lot of humanity struggles with. And
Mhm.
um, I would say that if we could look at our shame as what it's teaching us, oftentimes it's like it's a moral compass, like
Mhm.
what's wrong, what's right, blah, 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 blah. And if we can go, gosh, I'm intelligent enough to know what's wrong and right, and I'm more intelligent than I was when those things were happening to me when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I don't need that shame anymore to be my
Right.
guide or my
Yeah.
teacher or my reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healing shame and trauma and healing that is key. Um, you know, there's so many reasons why we might not want to talk about what we've been through in public. And there are places where it is safe enough to release that and work deeper with it.
Yeah.
Sexual trauma, which you and I have both gone through as children and as young adults or teens and young adult. This is something that women in particular, I want women to find places where there it is safe enough to feel the support that's there. Carrying the shame, that is something that's been used against us as women. And so being able to free ourselves from that and being able to speak of it in a way that says, yes, I've lived through this and I'm still working it out. And I've also learned this from this. And there's a lot of stories that both you and I have shared with each other. And that's the beauty of finding people you can work with and, being in groups that feel comfortable. Now, I recognize that the Tuscany retreat is a place of joy and fun. And if someone, and this is what I would suggest, if someone wants to go on that and you sense that maybe what's, the flow of your intuition might be stronger if you unlock or unblock some of this, reach out to Rochelle. There's a whole year to prepare to be able to go and work in that energy so that you feel you're making the most of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we do want the retreat to be fun and uplifting and
Yeah,
inspiring and to
yeah,
gain new community and
yeah.
go into new depths of intuition. And my goal is that people leave feeling
Mhm.
very well weaved together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. Rochelle and I are very deep people, so our conversations tend to go. You can tell we met weekly for years and years and years. So, we're just like, let's talk about our trauma now. It's not that we're, it's just that it's there and it's true and it's powerful. It's the energy of being present with it and releasing it gently, gently,
Yeah.
that allows us to open the flow of our intuition even more. Part of, and I've said this and I say this a lot, sometimes our intuition comes online or is activated through trauma because we need it to be able to get through our freaking childhoods because, you
Yeah.
know, because we're
You
like,
really Yeah, it helps you really start to read the energy of a room or the
yeah,
energy of an environment
yeah,
because the goal is to really feel safe and supported in this
right,
world. And
yeah,
so you get a lot of practice sometimes
yeah.
when you grow up in those
You
environments.
get
And
a lot of practice. Exactly. Because you don't know, and that's and unfortunately, a lot of us have grown up in households where there has been a lot of, we'll call it chaos to kind of give it a general term. So we have to have these other senses. And so that's a good thing, I think. And we also need to do the internal work. And so once we bring it all together, the massive amount of intuition that flows is powerful. Here's one other piece, and then I have to say another thing, and then we'll have to close soon, but because there's so much to say. A lot of us turn to animals because that was the only safety we had. So I know I would venture to guess 100% of the people here today, right now, turn to an animal at one point or another, whether it was a cat or a dog or a horse or a rabbit or a hamster, it doesn't matter, or a bird, because that's where we felt safe enough to open our heart, to let energy flow, right?
definitely,
Yeah,
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 definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which leads me, I'm going to segue from that. I'm trying to get it all in. So Rochelle is going to be at the Art of Equine Alchemy retreat in October as one of the supporting professionals at that retreat. So if anyone is going to the Art of Equine Alchemy retreat, I have to be like, where are all the words? You can meet Rochelle in person there. So Rochelle, what will you be doing during that time? And it's in Carmel
Carmel Valley.
Carmel
Yeah,
Valley.
I'm really looking forward to this. There's going to be so much positive energy here and
Oh
so
yeah,
many supporters and the animals as well.
yeah.
I'm just there to support whatever people need. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll hold space for them and, do a little
Yeah. How
reading
much
and
fun is that going to
yeah,
be? So there's
yeah.
that. And then you mentioned also, even if people live in the Bay Area, there's ways to get to you to come to the in person. They might be a long drive, but I was telling someone the other day, I think this is totally worth it. I think if you could go did you say every other month or every month?
Bi-monthly. So I have three
Okay.
of them posted right now and I have two more to post, but I'm really looking forward to this and yeah,
Okay. Now
very much so.
you're also working via Zoom. I think it's really important to let
Mhm.
people know that you are available. And you also have online courses. Am I right?
Yes, thank you, Denise. I do. Yeah. So I
Okay.
see people Zoom all the time, actually more than I see people in person.
Yeah.
You know how work went remote a while ago, and I
Yeah.
was remote about a year or two before that.
Yes.
And then I have some online classes for people that just want to dabble or people that want to go really deep. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, both are possible. So again, just reminding everybody, you've got intuition. The flow is as big as it can be right now, and love that. Feel the gratitude of that. And all of us, every one of us, Rochelle and I have worked together many years to open the flow by addressing the areas that hold that shame, that hold the trauma, that hold the lack of confidence or the fear. And there are ways in which we can access that. And it's fun because Rochelle and I often refer back and forth to each other. And one of the things that we've done for many years is, there's ways to identify how to work with trauma from an astrological chart. There's ways to
mhm.
understand where that comes from. And we each have our strengths of being able to share our gifts. And ultimately, both Rochelle and I want you to be sharing your gifts. I mean, that is the common, like, please go out and share your gifts. And in order to do that, we do need to continue to do work with ourselves. And that's why we have these communities. Rochelle, I'm excited because I see for you, being a seer myself, I see the community building in person there in ways that may be surprising, but I think, if we, and again, these are parts of the realms that we didn't get to yet, but we'll have another conversation. Maybe next time we just focus on guides and angels.
Oh, I'd love
Okay.
that. I'd
Okay.
love
Let's
that.
just focus because what I see, and this is the thing, like when I see is I see, like, I put my vision right where you are, and then I see the nature guides, I see your guides, I see angels, and I see this community of the others on the other side surrounding that area, and then calling in the higher selves of all the people, the humans who can come and be in person. So
Hmm.
when we're creating community, actually the community isn't just the people, it's all of the pieces that hold the community in place. And
That
that's
makes
very
sense.
powerful.
That makes sense. And I know we need to go, but I just wanted to share with anyone that is left on the call that intuition is as natural as having skin or a kidney or eyes. It's there. It's innate. You were born with it. Everyone has it. It's
That's
just
right.
if you're really wanting to become more intuitive or understand how yours is working, you can because it's just skill development.
Yeah, it's like the art and craft, right?
Mm,
So art and craft, we talk a lot about this with writing, the art and craft of writing. There's an art of writing and everyone can access that, right? But there's
definitely.
also craft, meaning everyone can learn to be better.
Yes, exactly. And yes, the angels have been hinting that they want to come in for about 4 weeks. They've been hinting that, and today I was like, okay, okay, I got it.
Oh, okay. So we'll schedule another time and we're going to talk primarily about angels and guides, which is fun. And I just again want to thank you so much. My heart is full, having spent this time with you, and I want to thank everyone here who's been holding this space with us for a very deep conversation. And for
Yeah,
those who
thank
are
you,
listening.
everyone.
Yeah, and those are listening later, just know that we always bring in your energy as well, and that you are safe and supported here. And to reach out, I will put coupon codes in the follow-up email to this recording for Cosmic Compass Conversation members. And so just letting people know that those will be in that follow-up email. Thank you, Rochelle, for being so generous and offering those to
Of
everyone.
course. And thank you, Denise. I just love you. I love everything about you.
I
And
love you too. I love you too.
and
I can't wait to visit you at your house. Hopefully soon, fingers crossed. Um,
wonderful.
yeah. And again, Michelle and I used to gather in person for years and years, and it is a very special experience to be able to do that. So, oh, I did want to mention for both of us, but if anyone ever wants to come for a weekend and do an immersion, that's also a possibility for both of us. And I
Yeah,
know that you and I've
definitely.
talked about that for you, and
Yeah.
you've done that. And I'm about to do one in a couple weekends from now. And it's fun, to have that time set aside for your deepening. So, okay, lots and lots more to talk about. Thank you all for being here, Rochelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
All
Denise.
right. Okay. Mwah.
Okay.
See you all
Take
later.
care.
Bye.
Bye.